to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 8th day of July. I got a great show with you for tonight. A lot to talk about. Not sure how everything's going to mount up, but we're going to get to it eventually. Also got a few announcements I'll make after the break about upcoming interviews coming up this week. Tonight, Joe Burrow was on, I think it was called Pardon My Take podcast with Barstool Sports there with that group, and had some pointing comments. He's ready to win Comeback Player of the Year. I think talking about he's going to be ready to play come game time in September for Cincinnati. Got a few other comments about the Bengals this year. I think they're really going to regroup. Going to go over that. Tua, there's a story out of it was a Pro Football Network about Tua and a potential holdout, possibly with him in Miami. I've got a take on his situation. We are 2 weeks away from training camp, folks. So a little over 2 weeks. Thursday, I want to say 2 weeks on Thursday, the earliest of the camp starts. So it's right up on us. NFL season is just right around the corner. Going to talk about that. Also, Cooper Flagg. This guy is getting a lot of hype. He's the Duke commit. He is playing with the USA team, scrimmaging with the men's Olympic team, and playing well. 17 years old. I'll talk about him. A lot of comparisons to this guy. There was another tragedy over the weekend with Kyrie Jackson. Was killed in a car wreck. I've got a take on that as well. I've got a take on that and possibly an adjustment to the NFL rookie Symposium. Stand by. I'll be back here in 49 seconds. Let's take our first and only break here, folks. And we'll go over all those big topics. And I got some announcements before I get into everything just after the break. So stand by. Let's get this show on the road here on the real, as you see on the screen, Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to Sports, that is Sports with an S, another S, Scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports. Thanks.
All right. I had to throw Mac's commercial in there, too. A little intro there, plug there. Mac, founder of the National Stream and Sports Network. I am broadcasting on their Roku channel, folks. Mac and Jack, Linda, very good programming over there. Really hard workers. Check out that. Lot of different podcasters over there, live streamers, and these shows are getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and more crisp. It's good to be a part of them. So kudos to hats off to Mac and Linda McGrath there. Mac, I've been meaning to do a promo for you as well. I've got that email. Just been very busy. I'm working 3 jobs now, folks. So anyways, all right. Let's get to these announcements before I forget them. Tomorrow, Tuesday, Ken Norris will be back on the program. Ken, big Alabama fan. Now, Ken kind of broke some news to me, I guess you want to say. You want to call it a prediction? Do you want to call it news breaking? he mentioned that Nick Saban's going to be this advisor, had an advisor role with Alabama. Then he sent me a screenshot of a report of him taking on this advisory role. Going to get his thoughts on that and a few other things here. Ken's always a really good interview guy I go to church with. Really smart guy, very good plumber, has an engineering background, knows his stuff. Love Ken North, so he'll be on tomorrow, 30 minutes past the hour. But that's not all, folks. My friend, she's from the X out. I told you, I mentioned this last week. Temple Ann Lewis and Tempe, Tempe. Let me make sure and get her name right. Tempe Ann Lewis will be on the program. She's a personal trainer out of the Tampa area. Big Tampa Bay Bucks fan. Pretty good friend here off the X out. Promised Tempe I was going to bring her on the program about 2 years ago. Wanting to do more of that, especially during the summer. We've got a little bit of a low in sports, although a lot of stuff going on now. I did want to bring her on the program. Seems like a pretty nice person. We'll get her on here Wednesday, okay? And also tomorrow, I just got this confirmed. This will be a recorded program, but I think I'm going to play it Thursday or Friday. Probably going to play it Thursday. Scott, let me make sure and get Scott's Morgenroth. Scott Morgenroth, okay? Scott Morgenroth, we'll be interviewing him, recorded an interview tomorrow before the program. Probably going to play this on Thursday. It's going to be really good. He has a lot of knowledge of South Florida sports, founder of the South Florida Tribune here. Got about 5,000 followers on the X app. Very serious. Does a lot of shows. His show's the exact same time as mine. That's why I'm having to record it. Scott, knowledgeable, Detroit sports. He's a Michigan native, lives down in the South Florida area, covers the Marlins, the Dolphins, big into hockey as well. He's a lot more versed than I am in different areas of sports, but I want to ask him about his background, get some his information on his takes on these Miami Dolphins here coming up. And so speaking of the Dolphins, let me start there. Okay, there was an article out of the Pro Football Network here. You know, I told you I think these guys are big hot take people, but it's an interesting article out of this. It's a fairly new website, Pro Football Network, and they're talking about Tua. And Tua could possibly be a holdout. We don't know if – I personally don't think he's going to hold out. Remember, Tua was drafted the same year as Joe Burrow. But, you know, they had this, and they said if Tua, quarterback at the Dolphins here, if he misses all of training camp and Dolphins 3 preseason games, that this is pretty drastic. This is a bold move. You really got to have be dug in to do this. But it could happen. And if they miss all of training camp and the Dolphins 3 preseason games, he would be forced to pay, yes, this is true, $5 million in fines. I've never heard of that before. Apparently, these are some new rules here. It says that's a staggering sum. This is from Pro Football Network. I'll make sure to give them credit. More than he's made in the last 3 seasons, but it's not a quarter of what he'll be owed in 24. The 23.2. He's on his 5th year option, folks, and that's just a fraction of what he wants. If $5 million holds out and rolls in $10 million more in pockets, worth more than it's good business sense. It says Tua made headlines last month. Said he would. He said that the market is the market for their prime quarterbacks, and why wouldn't he say that? In excess of more than $50 to $53 million a year. Now, and of course, they're saying the Dolphins look to offer him a substantially less than $53 million a year is what Detroit Lions Jared Goff has got. And I talked about Jared Goff before, Pickles, on this program. when you get to an NFC, AFC, two NFC championship games with two different teams, it's kind of hard. And you know that he's made some big throws at some big times to get there, and they're a kick away from getting to the Super Bowl. It's really hard to say it was just Sean McVay, okay? Even though they moved off him, got Matt Stafford, you all have heard me say that as of today, and I'll still stand by that until after training camp, which is in 2 weeks, Pickles, until after training camp, that I think Detroit's going to end up going to the Super Bowl this year out of the NFC. And so that range, according to this article, going back to Tua, could be a B-plus quarterback in a salary of north of $250 million. Okay. And I've said this. If I've said this once, I've said this a million times, that a lot of this is simply made out of fear. A lot of this is made out of fear, and I wanted to make sure and get Chris Greer's name here. Chris Greer, he's been with the Dolphins for a while. Don't get me wrong. But my thing is, organizations really don't want to pay guys like Kirk Cousins the money they're paying them. They don't want to pay guys like Blake Bortles what Jacksonville paid him. All right. Daniel Jones. And by the way, I had a cut here. I was going to play it in a different segment. But essentially, Rich Eisen says, I've heard multiple reports that the Giants, I think it's a little bit old news, but still, the Giants tried everything under the sun, every offer out there to move up to get Drake May, and they couldn't. And they couldn't. Okay. The buyer's remorse reports coming out about Daniel Jones. But they're signed out of fear of losing their job. Instead of moving off of a player with and again, I commend the Commanders. They were then the Redskins, moving off of Kirk Cousins with confidence. But it's driven by fear of not of the owner growing frustrated if you take a year or two. And to an owner that miles, and so some of these owners, not the Steelers, right? But to some of these owners, that is an eternity to Woody Johnson with the Jets. Sometimes to Daniel Snyder with the formerly a Washington Redskin team, and even this guy, even this owner right here. But and I like Tua. I mean, his numbers, yeah, they're really good. They really good completion percentage. 69.3 completion percentage, 7 out of 10 passes. Now, a lot of that's at the line of scrimmage. All right. But 29 touchdowns, 14 interceptions. I mentioned this a few weeks, about a month or two ago. He's apparently lost about 15 to 20 pounds, Tua has. He's going to work on his speed because he's too small to sit there in the pocket and do short passes, Tom Brady at the line of scrimmage type of plays. And he's too short, excuse me. He's not fast enough in the past to elude the pass rusher and get the ball upfield. He can't get the ball too far upfield because he don't have the arm strength. So he does not have size, speed, nor strength. He's got a good football IQ. And 18 months ago, he considered retirement after missing 10 games. So, I mean, you got all that stacking against this young man. What would the right thing be to do is for Chris Greer and this group to say, we just can't pay you $55 million a year. We love you, man. But you got to look at it from our perspective. You know, we got to pay you 32, 35 million. And that's just a little bit more than Tyreek Hill. That's why this is not going to happen. But if these general managers, if these owners would say, listen, are you signing this young man out of fear that I'm going to fire you, or you signing this young man out of confidence that he's getting just a little bit better, that we're seeing something in practice that's eventually going to transfer, like a Lamar Jackson. I've been down on Lamar. I was down on Lamar this time last year. The guys proved me wrong. He's worked on his passing game. They changed the offensive coordinator. They went out and got a talented Zay Flowers. But that's such an odd, more often than not, if you've got to talk yourself into it, it's probably not your guy. Even though he's only won one playoff game, one more than Tua, and I like Tua. Justin Herbert, right? No, wait, he blew a 29-point lead. That's right. Never mind. Has not. I got him mixed up with Lawrence. But anyways, Justin Herbert, size, speed, accuracy, football awareness, pocket awareness, excuse me. Do you really have to question a Justin Herbert? Do you have to question, even though his injuries, and I'm going to go into him in a minute, a Joe Burrow? Do you really have to question guys that, even though a Hurts, who I've been down on in the past, but the run he went on the year before that, making this team to the Super Bowl, a play like that, did you have to question an Aaron Rodgers 10 years ago, a Tom Brady 10 years ago? You just sign it. Did you have to question a Patrick Mahomes? You know? But Dak Prescott, Daniel Jones, Blake Bortles, Kirk Cousins, the massive, massive contracts. And those are the ones you got to talk yourself into, Pickles. And, you know, here's the thing about it, though. As much as I like watching them last year, they beat one formidable team, Dallas, by 2 points, Pickles. One. They lost to Buffalo. They lost bad to Baltimore. They lost to Philadelphia. You know, they beat up on a Giant team. They beat up on a Denver. You know, Colin Coward used to say he's like they're like the Mike Tyson effect. They can knock the tomato can. He didn't use that word, but essentially he was saying they can knock the tomato cans out early. You get a skilled Holyfield or Lennox Lewis in there, they're going to run you down. They're going to wear you down and beat you. But really, I mean, that the only team, and I'm gonna talk to Scott Morgenroth tomorrow in a taped interview, recorded interview, and I'm gonna ask him about that. I mean, and because he cannot elude the pass rush and his arm strength, it's just not going to get any better. I don't think. I mean, I just don't see it, man. You know, and McDaniels is a wizard. They've already extended Jalen Waddle. Why would they do that when you've got Tyreek Hill there? I don't know. I actually think they're probably going to fall short. Other articles are hyping up their defense. That's something I'm going to ask Scott about. They did lose Christian Wilkins last year. He's now a Las Vegas Raider on the defensive line. They cut Xavier Howard. They still got Jalen Ramsey. But this is a team that looks good in September against mediocre teams, but they rarely rise to the occasion against the formidable Kansas City. Beat them twice, blown them out 28-7. Not even a close game. Beat them over there in Europe. That game never really felt competitive. They're somewhat of a finesse team and a physical lead that it's for, you know, that old adage, Pickles, like you listen to your first instinct. My first instinct about Mike McDaniels and Tua was when they got Tyreek Hill, and they got Waddle, I said, this team's going to look great in September. Most Miami teams do, right? They had one of the best home records in the history of the game in September one time. And as the weather changes and the competition gets better, they fall and fall and fall. But the truth of the matter is they should look around for other quarterbacks, and Chris Greer should have some job security. Give him another shot at another quarterback. But they're going to sign him out of fear. They're going to sign him out of fear. Tupac said, the right rapper said, fear's stronger than love. Fear, and that's what they're signed out of. Fear of losing their. Look at Kirk Cousins. Was Kirk Cousins really going to get you over the top in Atlanta? I said that he was signed out of pure insurance policy, man. I love those commercials. I can't remember the name of it. The guy from Oz, Pickles, he's hanging on to the back of the car, and he said, "Oh, well, look what happened to the boat. I'm a rusty trailer hitch, and there goes your boat over there." It's boat flipping on the road, you know. It's about getting insurance. But that's all these guys are cheap insurance policies, and they're just not going for the pay dirt. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that it is Allstate. How could I not know that, Pickles? That commercial's on every college football game. That Allstate commercial's on. I've kind of liked this I got me a new microphone. Thanks to Rich Ferris from Cumulus. He recommended this Yeti microphone. Pretty expensive. This microphone I'm talking to you out of is well over 100. It's about 5 times what I normally pay for a microphone. And it really sounds good. I like it. I like it. But this is what I'm missing shows for, to have this kind of stuff right here. You see the logo that says Real Sports Scope, you know. But, yeah. So, Miami, I hope Tua don't hold out. Because I think if you hold out, you are it's a slow start there. Quarterback is not running back. It's bad to hold out at any position because of timing and being out of shape. Could you imagine if this report's right, the possibility of him holding out for all of training camp and all of those 3 preseason games? That dude would be rusty like nobody's business. That quick twitch offense that they got where you're trying to hit guys in stride, you know? So it's we'll see. I don't think he will. And I think Miami will pay him out of simple fear. Okay. Now let's get to a guy that has been paid, drafted the same year as Tua, a bad mother bleeper, in my opinion. I know he has been injured in the past. Joe Burrow, my only 2 knocks on Joe Burrow. 2 knocks. By the way, thank you, Mr. Burrow. A few years ago, watched the Sports Scope show on Periscope. Joe Burrow's dad one time watched the program when he was drafted. I was going on and on about him. But anyways, he does too many of these little fashion show-like things. He's a little much into that, hanging out with the rappers and stuff. Not a big complaint. Not a big complaint. And he's so good that he's overconfident with his pocket awareness. He's so disciplined at staying in the pocket that he's overconfident that he's going to get rid of the ball quick enough before he gets hit. And he hangs on to the ball a little too long out of overconfidence, not out of like a Daniel Jones or a Justin Fields, not out of lack of anticipation. He's looking for the perfect play. He's looking for the absolute perfection. Jay Cutler, much better than Jay Cutler, but the perfect play. And I think that's what hurt him. He got it. I mean, he was dealing with injuries before he had the wrist injury, in the Ravens. When you play the Ravens, if I'm their head coach there, and I said, I'll tell him, I said, you know, Joe, I know what we talked about for the last 4 years, and you being here is the only reason I'm here. You being here is only that's what I'm saying if I'm the head coach. But I'm telling you now, brother, young man, you've got to get rid of that football. We've got some really good running backs here. They got rid of who was it? Joe Mixon, Pickles, and they got some speedsters, man. I mean, Zach Moss. Zach Moss is going to be great in their system. Remember Zach Moss with the Colts? Chase Brown. Remember Chase Brown? Catch the ball up the field. T. Higgins in that contract year, he's going to play all out. T. Higgins is going to be on a mission to get that money. He's not going to hold out. He's already went to mandatory mini camps. He's going to be in training camp. I guess they got Jermaine Burton, 3rd-round pick out of Alabama. That's going to be a steal right there to take over for Tyler Boyd, Jamar Chase. You said, why are you bringing all this crap up? Okay, so Joe Burrow said in the Part of My Take podcast that essentially, how did he say it here? Let me make sure. I don't want to. He said people forget when you're hurt. I'll give them something to talk about. And I tell you what, he had that serious Joe Montana type of look. He's cocky, but he's backed it up in the past. And I think he's going to come back like a house of fire this year. I really do. He's asked how he stacks this with other quarterbacks in the league. He said time will tell before a decision moved into whether people have forgotten how much you've been missing last year. He argued with the assessment. By the way, I got this off of Pro Football Talk, talking about that podcast per se. He's planning to offer a strong reminder about what he can do come fall. I believe that's what Burrow says. That's what happens when you get hurt. And I just read that quote there. Again, he's got Orlando Brown, and they did sign Trent Brown. They did sign, I think it's former New England Patriot to play right tackle. Okay. And you got Mike Gesicki, former Dolphin at tight end. That's another thing. He's got to utilize the tight end in the middle of the field. He's always wanting to use his speed on the outside in those receiver screens. I love Jamar Chase, but maybe two, and my fantasy people are going to hate me for this, but do you lower your Jamar Chase targets by 1 or 2 targets a game? Is that too much to ask? You know, do you lower that? Use all that you got. The great quarterbacks, they use the whole thing. Now, they go their go-to guys when the money's on the line, whether it be Travis Kelce with Kansas City, Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, the 2 Brady guys, Montana from you get my point, Marvin Harrison, you know, Reggie Wayne, whatever, the Peyton Manning's guys. But all those quarterbacks, Brady included, Peyton Manning loved Dallas Clark. The Peyton Manning Dallas Clark combo was so good. When that came 2009, I had a fantasy team one time, and I got smoked the first week I played daily fantasy. And I thought, you know something? Miami's weak in the middle. I think I might want to take Dallas Clark at tight end. Little dude get open for the Colts there. Let's see what happens with him. Of course, 80-yard touchdown first play of the game, right down the middle of the field. Tom Brady saw that and said, Coach, give me some of them tight ends, man. Let's do what Peyton Manning is doing down there in Indianapolis. And then we know what happened. They went out and got Aaron Hernandez and Rob Gronkowski. That's a true story. Brady said that. And So Burrow, as much as I'm high on him, Burrow, if healthy, his ceiling is still Tom Brady, Joe Montana like, okay, if the owner can continue to back him up, per se. Although I will say this, as good as I think Jermaine Burton out of Alabama could be, I would have moved off Higgins and got another pass rusher. But they still got Trey Henderson and Sheldon Rank, and Sam Hubbard's not a bad player at all whatsoever. Okay. And they brought back a good safety here in Von Bell. There was an article a few weeks ago, and I didn't get a chance to talk about it then, but I'm talking about it now, back in June the 20th, that out of The Athletic, this guy Paul Dittmeyer says the Bengals defensive coordinator, Lou Amorano, who I'm big time high on, Pickles. I'm big time high on this guy. Other than Steve Spagnuolo out of Kansas City, Anaramo is my guy. They jump way too many routes. I mean, he's got them defensive backs psyched out like nobody's business. He's got them buying into everything he's coaching them. And says he's feeling good about the spring secondary reorganization, is what Amorano said in this article here. Laughed and rolled his eyes after viewing a series of clips of 2023 reactions. A lot of missed tackles. They had to replace guys like Jesse Bates at safety. They've had to replace cornerbacks like nobody's business. But last year's starting three safeties, Dax Hill, Jordan Battle, Nick Scott, are no longer starters on the team, this report says. Quarterback DJ Turner is in the battle. Geno Stone arrived from Baltimore. Always a good pedigree. Anybody from Baltimore plays good. I don't know what it is in the water. They just know what they're doing now up there. And then they've got Von Bell returned from Carolina. The early returns have been notable. Anaramo was second with overall defense communication. He says we've drastically improved with that portion of the part. Remember, they gave up that late touchdown to C.J. Stroud and that Houston team last year. Carlos beat me on that game. It was in the middle of the season. And a lot of that was all those inexperienced safeties out there running into each other. Now, they started looking good towards the very end. Remember, this team lost Joe Burrow in the middle of the season. He was playing through injury anyways. They lost him, and they still had a winning record at 9-8. Go figure. In last place, 9-8. But if you look at this, Enter once joked about the connection between Bell and Jesse Bates in 2020 being a 500 level class. Aramo joked about the connection between Bell and Bates in 22 being a 500 level advanced defensive play. He ain't lying about that. But if you could keep Burrow healthy, get the football out of your hands, and let Anaramo do his thing and possibly do a trade deadline type of move, this would be big. This would be big. I wish I was running the Cincinnati Bengals, man. I would trade a guy like Higgins in the middle of the season and try to get like a player for player, like a big defensive star. Probably won't happen. But go after, I'm not saying Von Miller, go after Von Miller type of player. Go after a Chris Jones level of player. Somebody like that, Go after a Giant or somebody, maybe something happens to one of the Eagles, one of those players. Go after one of those type of players, But I do, all that being said, Pickle says, Dallas Clark, 80 yards for a touchdown. 2009 Monday Night Football Week 2. How about that? Oh, man. I tell you, Chris Johnson had about, Pickle's bringing up a flashback there. I had Chris Johnson that week against Houston back in 2009. And I think he had like 180 all-purpose yards and like 2 touchdowns and 5. He was just unbelievable that day. I had over 220-some points my second ever, and that's huge for fantasy, for you fantasy lovers. If you get over 150, you're doing great. 220, I was kicking butt and taking names, you know. But anyways, I say all that to say that now I've already said Detroit out of the East, out of the NFC. It could be Cincinnati, Detroit again. They're Cincinnati Super Bowl bubble. Miami Dolphins, maybe not the playoffs. Houston Texans with Danielle Hunter. And I listen, folks, we got training camp starting in 2 weeks. I'm not going to put my final answer. Remember Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? I'm not going to put my final answer in until we get almost to the start of the season, probably Labor Day weekend, because I want to make sure nobody's injured in training camp. We don't have to make sure nobody has their appendix taken out like Joe Burrow did a few years ago, or an ACL was torn by your left tackle, something crazy like that. God forbid. But you get my point. But Cincinnati's there. They're back in the bubble. The LA Chargers, I've been meaning to talk about, and I eventually will. They're in the bubble. Houston Texans out of the AFC, they're in the bubble. Reluctantly, as I like to say, Kansas City's in it, but I'm not going to pick Kansas. There's no way. The competition's too thick. The target's too big on Kansas City. But they're in the bubble. I'm not going to pick them, but they're in the bubble. They're in the bubble. The Ravens are even in the bubble. The Ravens are in the bubble out of the AFC. As of right now, no Cleveland, no Jets right now. Buffalo probably, addition by subtraction with Stephon Diggs, even though Buffalo's had some issues. They've replaced some older players who were injury-prone in the secondary anyways. I like what they've done in the offseason, drafting-wise. Kincaid can have that much of a better year at tight end, I think, in year 2 without chirping coming from Stephon Diggs, who's now a Houston Texan. Buffalo's going to be in that bubble, Pickles, anyways, just saying that, comeback player of the year, Joe Burrow. How about that? Now, I know you New York fans want to say, what about Daniel Jones? Oh, man. I just put out a quote about him from last week's show. All righty, then. What else? Where should I go now? Okay. Going to basketball, then I'll come to the I'll go to the Kyrie Jackson story. Man, I'll tell you what. For the past 6 months, either it be on the X app, other sports talk shows, there's been this guy. He's a commitment to Duke. His name is Cooper Flagg. Cooper Flagg has been trending. He is committed to Duke, 17 years old, Pickles. And he is hooping, dunking on guys. And this is no lie because it's on film. Anthony Davis in the practices with the against the Olympic team. And the more I see of him, there's some LeBron-like tendencies for Cooper Flagg here. There's some. So I've been looking this guy up, and some of the write-ups from scouts this is what I got off of Google here. Paul George, which I think his ceiling's bigger than Paul. I mean, this guy's quick as a cat. Jason Tatum, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now he don't got that height that Giannis has. And I'm reading off the internet that people saying the Bulls are trying to make way to lose like nobody's business and get this guy. But he is step back three, dunking on guys. And the last time I heard about this, years later, not at the time, but the last time I heard about this was in 1992, the Olympic team with the greatest, arguably the greatest Olympic team of all time, Jordan, Magic, Pippen in his prime, Bird, Stockton in his prime, Barkley. It was the team. It was really David Robertson had the size, had the speed, had the gill, best player ever in his prime. During the practices, though, there was a guy hooping on Scottie Pippen like 17 years old, and it's this blonde-headed German named Dirk Nowitzki. Cooper Flag, yes, it does rhyme with the F word. It rhymes with mag or maggot, this derogatory. But that's not it. Cooper Flag is his name. He's a white guy, about 6'7", 6'8", quick. And Pippen and Barkley, there was this young guy just hooping on these guys, shooting over them like nobody's business. And found out later that was Dirk Nowitzki. And we know he went on to be an NBA Hall of Famer. Keep an eye out for this guy. Keep an American guy, finally, right? I know the first round pick overall was a Frenchman, and he's not Wembanyama hype. Don't get me wrong. He's not Caitlin Clark of the WNBA, but this guy he's something. He's starting to pick up the highlight reels. You know, he's got the shooting ability, first step ability, basketball IQ. He's got some LeBron tendencies to him. He's got some LeBron-like tendencies, although the scouts are not saying LeBron-like. Just a little bit of footage I've been watching over the weekend of Cooper Flag. Boy, man. Archie Bunker would have a field day with that name, wouldn't he, Pickles? That's an old joke for my older audiences. Anyways, okay. So, on a much more somber tone, folks, I've got to talk about this other story. It saddens the heck out of me. It saddens the heck out of me. Vikings. 4th round pick. Kyrie Jackson. 4th round cornerback was killed over the weekend, folks. Car wreck. He had 2 high school teammates with him. He's from Maryland area. He's transferred. I think he played for Oregon and Alabama. I want to say played with the cornerback there at Alabama and played for Oregon as well. So as a transfer player. Speed has supposedly been the factor. Someone cut them off or whatnot. Speed very well may have been the factor. And, I read this story and I think about it over the weekend. You all have heard me talk about the Rashid Rice situation with racing in the streets and going back to Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter, I know that was his last year in college, but he had a teammate that got killed in another racing incident. Now this one was racing, but it was a speed incident. He had a teammate get killed in Georgia. Jalen Carter, and let's not forget Henry Ruggs with the incident doing over 125 miles an hour with his girlfriend, which I don't know why she didn't say, "Stop, Henry, stop." Boy, one of my sisters will say when her boyfriends are going fast, going reckless like that. And I say this from a guy who is never holier than thou, who always owns up to my own problems in the past. I've got 2 speeding tickets in college. I got in a reckless driving related accident as a teenager. Dumb kid doing dumb kid things. Like my dad would say, at that age, a lot of us think we're 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And I'm going to ask Ken Norris about this tomorrow. But couldn't you see a guy like a Nick Saban at the rookie symposium, and him just talking about the Henry Ruggs situation and talking about the temptation to speed and buy these high-end luxury speed demon type of cars, Corvettes, all the cars I love too, Ferraris, and driving well over 100 miles an hour. There was that Eagle player, Pickles. I know I'm talking about Corey something. Was it Jerome Brown? Yeah, Jerome Brown in '87 got in a high-speed accident related. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is you're 21, 22, 23, I think he was 23, even at 25. You're playing in the NFL. You got there by being aggressive and being used to being hit, playing at speed, wide open aggression. That's how you got to the NFL. All that testosterone, all that energy. That's how you got to be successful. Can you imagine on the low end, guys? On the low end, can you imagine giving these young men hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash signing bonuses? Okay, hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash. The chance, I'm surprised after reading this story. I'm surprised that we don't have more deaths, high-speed car wrecks. I don't. What is it? 1,700 players in the league, and not to sound. I know everything cannot be prevented, but just have someone talk about the deaths related to speed accidents in America. A lot of the state, like for instance, I went to school in Florida. My freshman year, required to take a driver's ed class for 1 year. I took it in high school. I liked it, even though coach was loud at me, hollering at me and stuff. Hey, man, what are you doing? I learned a lot from that class, and to have a guy like that to talk about why run this opportunity over that adrenaline rush you get from all this money. We know you guys got a lot of testosterone. And obviously this should be said in the major colleges anyways for young people. But have a refresher on it at the rookie symposium and said, guys, if you go on a race, go up to a racetrack, get the proper gear on. You can race all you want to, but please don't go out here and think that you can do 100+ miles an hour. And I don't know if that is exactly the case here, but that reckless driving attitude, you are even as safe as these cars have been made, it's just not worth it. There's not a day goes by that Henry Ruggs don't think about that little girl, that young woman, 33 years old or whatever, and her dog burning up. He's crying at the, somebody, I say save him because he had a good quote about it. I couldn't find it. But he's supposedly an advisor now for Alabama. Maybe he'll take over for, he used to coach with Bill Belichick, and he's coaching NFL. He cares genuinely about motivating the players to better their situation because he was dirt poor growing up. He never had nothing, hardly, growing up in West Virginia. And his dad took him down to that coal mine and said, are you sure you want to work down here? Are you sure you want to work down here? He said, no. That's why I think he worked so hard. But I say that, here's Jerry West, another West Virginia native, right? But when you get that money, you want to get in that car, you got all that testosterone, and you want to go 130 miles and just talk to them about these statistics. The statistics I found here on high-speed accidents, I don't even believe these statistics because I drive for a living. It says more than 12,000 deaths 29% of crash fatalities occurred in high-speed related crashes in 2022. High-speed crashes make a crash more likely because the driver less reaction time because it requires a long distance to stop slow. I think it's got to be more than that because I'm on the interstate all the time, and the high-speed incidents I see, it's just too hard. I mean, this guy was 24, 23, young men, you know, but it's, I tell you, and I know it sounds corny. I know it sounds like overkill, but you're in that high-speed car here. You know, you're in that vet, and your favorite song comes on, and it's instinctive to want to get really fast. Couldn't you imagine if you're a player, you're 23, you got some time off between the time you're drafted in April. You've already went to all these mini camps, and you're getting ready for training camp, but you got a good 6 weeks off, and you want to take that vet out, and you want to get up to 125 miles an hour. Could you imagine Nick Saban's voice in your saying, think before you step on that gas, man. Think before you do this. You know? Just don't throw it all away. You are not 10-foot tall bulletproof. You cannot make those turns. I've seen people have wrecks when it wasn't raining outside, nobody hardly around. Because the wind was so bad, and you lose control of the car, man. I see some crazy stuff out there. And for God's sake, don't speed in the rain. Not to be preaching. I care. These guys are young men. You know, he was a passenger, but his friend was driving. They're all around the same age. And obviously the alcohol stuff is there too. We have Ubers. I've been driving for Uber, you know. But it's the speed thing. It's that ego push. It's that adrenaline. And just for somebody just to read that and talk about the reckless driving, add that to the symposium, I don't think that's asking too much. I really don't. It's just, you say, well, they're supposed to know this when they're 16. The laws are different in every state. A lot of these kids nowadays, they're not even driving to, I don't think my nephews drive. When I was living in New York, my friends are 21 years old. They still have a driver's license. I said, dude, you what? I said, dude, I'm a year younger than you. I'm 20. I've been driving since I was 16. You know, I did some stupid stuff. But I tell you what, I got wise real quick. I had my face on a steering wheel and had to get 17 stitches in my lip. I said, man, this is stupid, man. And I just talk to them. Have that at the symposium. And just don't talk about, yeah, your insurance is going to go up and all that. Legal trouble. I mean, Rashid Rice may get suspended for 6 or 7. Not to mention Leonard Little. Dante Stallworth ran over a man, speeding, alcohol related, lost his license. That killed a guy in Florida 10, 12 years ago. Leonard Little, alcohol related accident. I mean, it's a lot of incidents, man. It's a lot. And I'm surprised there's not more than that. A lot of this stuff we don't even know about that the players get away. So it's again, somebody who's gotten 2 tickets in college, did some stupid stuff. I give a crap. I wouldn't talk about this stuff. You know, driver safety. Just take the time and talk about decision making and put some statistics up there and say, guys, please pay attention to this. And like Mark Golick used to say, a lot of them's going to say it can't happen to me, but at least as the NFL, you could say we did that. We talked to the players about money management. There's a video, Malik Neighbors Pickles looked like he had $10,000 in cash up at the strip club. And I'm thinking to myself, man, maybe they should have went out and got another offensive lineman. I understand you're young, you have fun. It's not normal for a person. You're in the top 99.999%. I get it. To have that kind of money in your hand can create a disaster. But I just don't like to see people get hurt like that, man, or tragedy like this one. and save these young men from themselves. But anyways, so tomorrow I'll have Ken Norris on the program. I'm going to have a lot of fun with him. Me and him cut up at church like two young kids, But I was going to ask him about taking over as the head coach there, or as an advisor with Alabama, and what do you think? Maybe asking Saban to do something like that. Talk at the rookie symposium and just show a few stats there on this and just tell guys, please slow down, man. Please slow down. Just have a little bit of discipline in that vehicle, man. Pickle says, we'll be broke in lesson 3. If you keep spending money like that, ask Pac-Man Jones. He had $60-something thousand in the strip club in Vegas. Of course, a guy got shot that night. Pac-Man ended up getting the Titans in the league suspended him for a year after that. But he had a lot of stuff going on. There was another player that got suspended. Of course, I'm about to wrap the show up here. I forgot who it was. They got conduct detrimental to the team. Cameron Sutton, was the Steeler there, suspended 8 games, personal conduct policy. It's just hard to stay out of trouble, man. It's hard to stay out of trouble. But anyways, Pickle says I'm surprised Pac-Man's still living or ain't doing 25 years in prison. God bless the guy. Again, I'll have Ken Norris here, second half of the show. A lot of stuff to get to with him. Tomorrow, like I said, I've got a big week here. Temple and Lewis on Wednesday. And Thursday, I may air a Scott. Let me make sure I get Scott's last name. Morganroth. Watch that Thursday. And, of course, hopefully Friday have the Mad New Yorker back on Friday. Got a big week here. Can't wait, folks. If you like the show, please share the show. We're doing everything we can to build this thing up, turn it into a monster if we all come together as a team, like Pink Floyd said, and have a cigar. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you otherwise. Same time, same place here on Sports Scope.